Hey guys, Toki here with another strategy guide for Vaulted Incarnates. Today, we're going to be looking at some updates to our heroic Raszageth strategy. First and foremost, we're moving tanks to the other side of the boss. They're going to take him a little bit off kilter. It's okay if the boss moves out of the center a little bit, but generally speaking, we want him in the center. And the reason is that we want to all be very tightly stacked on triangle. So we want all the melee, all the range, tightly stacked on triangle. And I want to show you guys an example of our pulls from last night. And this was very consistent across pulls, where range would stand in a large semicircle like this. Melee would stand kind of around the boss, to the side of the boss like this. And we'd be very spread out. And so this is one of the reasons why we rotted out to damage a lot. A lot of the healers have AoE ground-based healing, and you can only hit about a quarter of the raid with it when we're spread like this. And also our damage is cooldowns, our anti-magic zone or our barrier from Dispriest, again, can only cover about a quarter of the raid when we're spread like this. And if you're wondering, was this right before a spread mechanic? It wasn't. This was right before a pushback. And so we're all lining up and we're picking different lightning pools, right? These guys are picking the one to the left here. We've got one behind us in the center, and we also have a lightning pool behind these guys to the right. And so, no reason to be spread like this. No reason to pick different lightning pools. We all want to be on the same one, and we all want to be close. So we're all going to be focused on staying on triangle as much as possible and being a very close stack. When the bombs come out, there's a part of the bomb mechanic that we're not doing very well. And you saw in the last screenshot that we had all the bombs really close to each other. And there's part of this mechanic where it does damage and it falls off once you get farther away from the bomb, right? So it's proximity based. And so this is how we were dropping it last night. And so, we'd have the three bombs right next to each other, no gaps, so it would be harder to get knocked off when he does his wins. But what that does is the guy who drops the bomb in the center now gets damage from their own bomb, and then two very close other bombs. And so very likely he just dies from that damage. Okay, so we really want to make sure that we have that gap, we have that space between the bombs. And so one bomb is always going to be dropped on diamond, and then the other two just need to make space and get dropped on the edge of the platform. It could look like this, or if you both run to the same side, it could look like this, right? One is always on diamond, and the other two have space and are at the edge of the platform. Okay, and then when winds come, it's another mechanic that we can do better. And so basically, if you dip into the lightning before you get knocked back, you reduce the damage that the knockback does significantly. And so we're all stacked on triangle, and the bomb that goes to diamond will have its edge very close to our stack point. So really, you only have to take 2 or 3 steps backwards to touch this lightning pool before the winds hit. And so range and healers, 100% are moving back. Melee, we'll have to feel it out and see if they have to pull off, but more than likely they want to keep their DPS uptime and get knocked back to pop a defensive. Okay, we're all going to pick the same lightning pool, and then we're all going to be stacked up in it, making healing significantly easier. And then once it ends, we then move back out. More than likely, there's going to be a breath at this time, and so then when breath comes, we all dodge left. Breath comes out, then we move back and stack on triangle. Very tight, very controlled. Okay, then it comes to the adds or the sparks. When we have sparks, we're going to go to different zones. We're going to have a weak aura that's going to help assign us to zones just to make it a little bit simpler. We'll have to see how it works. I haven't tested it out yet, but hopefully it's helpful. And basically, we're going to have these 3 zones, a left, a right, and a center. So left zone is the zone closest to star, the right zone is closest to moon, and the center is closest to diamond. So you kind of want to drop it in these colorful triangles. Obviously, you can drop it in between them as well. And you want to try to prioritize getting the adds closer to the boss, just so they're more clumped up together versus at the edge of the platform. We're also going to assign people specifically for CCs in each zone. If you're not assigned, still use your CCs, right? We're going to need to push the boss after 1 spark before the second spark comes out. Okay, so we're only going to get 1 spark on this first platform. Everybody uses their CCs, right? Mass Dispels, Fears, Warrior Fears, AoE Stuns, anything. Okay, get them down, use the big AoE ones, and then try to go back to pumping the boss. We'll have a few more bomb push mechanics, and then before the next sparks, we'll transition to phase 2. Phase 2, very, very simple. You go to your sides, just don't get hit by deep breath. If everyone's alive, there should be no reason that we die in phase 2. And it's a great time to let your personal damages cooldowns come off cooldown, let the healing cooldowns come off cooldown. We'll just kind of rotate around and end back up before we go to phase 3. Phase 3 is a bit more complicated on heroic, and really it's all around the charge mechanic. So the charge mechanic now, if you run over someone with an opposite charge, you're going to do a big spike of damage. You can probably survive one person, but if you run over two, almost certainly you're going to die. So we're going to pre-spread, have to pre-spread for this mechanic. If you don't, we're going to wipe. So this is really a critical mechanic we have to learn. So we're going to pre-spread, something like this, right? And we're going to do a very specific movement pattern so that we can get to our marks quickly, and we also don't run into other people. So if you have a negative mark, you're going to run into the boss. Okay, you run into the boss. If you have a positive mark, you're going to rotate around the boss and into positive. If you're melee with a positive, you have to step away from the boss and rotate. You cannot rotate near the boss because everyone else who has a negative charge is running in. You must step away and rotate. Okay. Once we get to our spots, we're going to stack up really tight on our spots, and you're going to get huge damage buff, right? And during that time, Raszageth is going to have this big shield. If you don't break it in time, it's going to do huge AoE damage to the raid. We have to break it in time. And so this mechanic right here is extremely critical, and the one we really have to focus on getting right. We have to pre-spread, we have to move correctly, we have to move fast so that we can get that big damage buff and break through that shield as soon as possible. Once we get that one down, every other mechanic's very similar to normal. You have to run against the winds that come out. Don't cast and let the Nova push you back. You'll take a ton of damage and probably die. You have to run through it. Stop your cast and run through it. And then we'll also do the same thing when the adds or the sparks come up. We're going to segregate into our left, right, center zones and use our AoE CCs to knock them out. Okay. Once we get past phase 3, now instead of one ad, there are 2 big ads. And so we're going to keep our groups just like we had in phase 2. So a moon group is going to be on the right ad. Star group is going to be on the left ad. And just like in normal, they're going to spawn a bunch of little guys. These guys have to die before they get to the other ad. There's 5 to 8 or something like that on each side that spawns. We have to AoE them down, slow them, stun them, CC them, so they don't reach the ad on the other side. While they're close, melee need to focus the small ads and cleave off to the other small ads. As they move towards the other ad, because the left ads move right, the right ads move left, melee can stop on them, go back to the big ad, while ranged focuses these guys as they go through the center. Big time AoE here in the center as they cross, and a great time to stun them. Then they'll keep going. Once they start getting close again, melee will then switch their focus from the big ad back to the small ads again and kill them. They must die before they get to the big ads. Besides that, there's deep breath to worry about and really nothing else in this phase. It's another free phase. After this phase is done, we make sure we get knocked back to the center platform. And really the only new mechanic in the center platform is this magnetic grasp. We keep it in melee. We move it away from the raid. Again, we're stacking on triangle just like we were before. And so this is a great spot to put it off to the side. You can put it off the side over here. But wherever it is, keep it in melee so melee can keep attacking it. And so that when range moves back to triangle, they have a short path to get to triangle. And other than that, it's the exact same as normal. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully all that made sense. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or any of the other officers. And otherwise, looking forward to raiding with you guys tonight.